vendor credentials, the respective state DBPR license, as well as fire and health department inspection reports shall be displayed and available. Property owner's consent must have written consent and be prepared to present it to county officials upon request. Special event and coordination shall conform to all event-specific conditions imposed by the county and applicable fire, law enforcement, or emergency management agencies. And then just other LDR considerations, as I kind of highlighted earlier, this does not remove the Gifford Farmers Market or mobile lunch truck allowances. The PZC, at their meeting on December 11th, 2025, voted unanimously to recommend approval of the proposed ordinance and the mobile food dispensing vehicle regulations with one change regarding the timing of the ordinance's effective enforcement date as follows. This ordinance shall take effect 90 days after final adoption by the Board of County Commissioners. So this gives people time to make sure that they're in compliance before any code enforcement action would be taken. Staff recommends that the BCC adopt the proposed land development amendments to institute mobile vehicle dispensing vehicles or food truck regulations within unincorporated Indian River County. Thank you.
Brandon, if I can add where you mentioned the staff recommendation, if I can defer that to the county administrator, specific to what this body is expected to resolve today, sir.
So what we're asking is that you evaluate, I mean, we have provided this, they did go over it at the P&Z meeting, and looking at the definition, looking at the various components as it relates to the location, placement, the operational standards, the hours of operation, the duration, just those basic things that we can regulate through zoning. I think the board asked as a whole that we go out and we look at what other communities were doing, not reinvent the wheel, and bring back what would be appropriate for Indian River County. And I think this does that. I think there's some room for discussion on certain items, as I've spoke with several of you individually. I know some have expressed concerns about the hours of operation, the prohibition of tents and/or seating, and I think the other was the awnings. So, I mean, I think those are realistic conversations to have. I understand that there was also one member that expressed why not allow them to keep it on site on a permanent basis, at least more than overnight. So, I mean, for each of those, we could, provide, I'll take a shot, and then Ryan can. I mean, the hours of operation, I'll just tell you personally, and professionally, I'm not sure that there should be a limitation to some degree. The ability to keep it overnight or at a permanent location, I think that's a little problematic in that, when you consider some, not just restaurants, but other businesses that are bricks and mortar that have expended large amounts of capital to have a business location, and to leave a food vendor truck, or even if it was some other retail type of truck in one location, it's certainly, there's an equity, and I think there's an equity and fairness discussion there. The tents and the camp and the seats, I can just tell you, having, who likes to go to food trucks. I mean, it's Fellsmere, and there's one on the southeast corner. They have, a canopy tent with some seats, and we go out there and we sit down, eat some tacos, and then leave. It's not been a problem. So I think there's some reasonable discussion points on those items that the board should provide direction to staff, especially since some members have expressed concerns regarding these items. And so I'll just return it to the board for further questions and comments.
In other words, there will be no legislative actions today. There will be no ordinance creation and/or modification. This is simply a discussion, albeit under a legislative matter.
So you have a proposed ordinance as part of the packet, and what you ultimately determine as the policymakers, as a legislative body, we would, working with the county attorney's office, modify that ordinance to reflect what you would like to see for Indian River County's food truck ordinance.
Okay?
If I may.
Thank you. At this time, yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. Really quick, I just want to make sure, because it is reflected for a public hearing, that we still do open the public hearing, and what we
Yes,
can
ma'am.
do is continue it to a time certain to another date.
We certainly will have public hearing.
Okay.
Before that, we'll see if the commissioners have any questions or concerns.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I just, at this time, I want to thank staff for working diligently on this process, and I want to thank some of the vendors, the business people who have spoken and voiced their opinion. And I also want to thank them for the opportunity to witness something that I just wanted to talk about a minute. You see, we had no legislation, but we had some code ordinances that curtailed certain endeavors and activities. Food trucks were treated as an enigma for many years, a scab, a nomadic business that did not want to pay for the brick and mortar location. It was looked at in a whole different view. I want you to know that some of the finest food comes out of food trucks. And we all go to, let's say, the firefighters' fair, and we anticipate to having some special delightful treats from these trucks. And, well, when there was a discussion about some violations, we then had said, well, we're going to create an ordinance. And when we wanted to create an ordinance, there was a problem because there were some food truck vendors in the community that there was a perception that they may have overstepped their bound, which they did not. But the food trucks themselves were operating, and there was a dilemma with the banner flags, and, well, we have to sort that out. I want you to know the county administrator had suspended, abated any enforcement during that time. That's correct, sir?
That's correct, sir.
And well over 6 months, and this is the point I want to make, in over 6 months, with no enforcement, that collectively there are many vendors, nothing has changed. They were allowed to operate without enforcement. And you would think that if that's the case, that many would come and they would start overstepping their bounds. They did not. I want you to know that the food truck operators have been very respectful and well operating. The public is being serviced with another opportunity, reasonable rated food as far as price, and they're also able to go out and get a meal. As a matter of fact, some of them are actually Uber Eats associated, and so people just phone in orders and they're picked up and they take off. They really have not had a negative impact on the community. And the state says that we can't compare brick and mortar or limit their operation for brick and mortar. So I just wanted to say thank you for them to being patient. I think this is a great opportunity to be able to move forward. Again, the food truck operators are not what our fathers dealt with. They're not an inner-city enigma. They are a viable resource. Some of the things that were discussed by Mr. Tkaczyk were some things that we had offered. One in particular was that the state says that there's no limitation on time. And again, we could do that, but I want to point out in the city of Sebastian and in the county, there was a time where a restaurant needed renovations, and the food trucks were requested to be in there so that the dining public would be able to have some food. This was an alcohol licensed establishment, and in order to do that, the food truck was stationed there well into the early hours. And that's allowed by the state, and I don't think that we should have a time limit with that instance. So I'd like to see something carved out in there if they are contracted. In addition, we talked about the tents. Again, you don't want to have a carnival atmosphere. I get it. The limitation on spots. When there are allowable spots, then I believe that there could be something carved out where they could have a tent. Imagine going to a food truck and waiting, and again, it does take a little time to prepare it. These are short order professionals, well prepped. Actually, some of them operate with a chef, a sous chef, and someone to handle the transaction, which incidentally is by and large and by far by card. There's very little cash that is exchanged. Most people just want to tap and go, tap and go. And if that's the case, we should respect that and give them an opportunity to have a dining experience as well. Again, with caution. I know, again, I mentioned that we don't want to have a carnival-like atmosphere, but it hasn't happened when there was no enforcement for 6 months. And I think that's a fair time for something to go wrong, for something to be obtrusive. I think that the food trucks are a whole different environment. They're very costly to operate when you think about what they have to do, not only just preparing a menu, but preparing a service and all of the amenities. But not only that, they are subject to health department regulations, so they have to keep a licensed, sterile environment. These are not just pickup trucks with a food distribution point. These are businesses, and the vehicles have to be well-maintained. There's fuel, and there's many obligations already. And I just want to say that I think they've been operating in a very respectful fashion. So this is our opportunity to tune it up a little bit, to make sure that we keep it on course and make it right.
Thank you, Commissioner Fleischer. Any other commissioners have a comment? Commissioner Moss?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, this is a question, a legal question, I guess, since it was mentioned that we might want to discuss having it be fixed. Is it defined in state statute? I'm looking at the proposed ordinance now, Section 1, the inserted paragraph. It says, "A mobile food dispensing vehicle, that is food trucks, shall mean any vehicle that is a public food service establishment and that is self-propelled or otherwise movable from place to place, and which includes self-contained utilities, such as gas, water, electricity, or liquid waste disposal, consistent with the definition provided in Section 502.102 Florida statutes." So it has to be, it seems to me that it has to be movable, I mean, by state definition, by state statute. So we don't need to discuss any food truck being fixed.
If I may,
Ms. Prado?
thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Madam Commissioner, yes, that is the exact language from Section 509.102 in the Florida statute subsection 1A. That is the exact definition of a mobile food dispensing vehicle. So yes,
So by definition, it's got to move.
yes, it has to move.
Okay, thank you.
Well, it has to be movable. It doesn't give us a time frame, if you will. Thank you.
Commissioner?
Mr. Chair, and one other thing, I noticed where it lies as far as zoning, and I did see that CG wasn't there. That is also where there are a couple of big box stores, nationally known to have food vending at the threshold. In some jurisdictions, they have them where they're actually permanently there with a skirting around it. And again, that's an understanding with the PUD process that they have this exception as far as the orange store and the blue store. They have allowed the opportunity to do that. Well, if they are in CG, and if that's the case, then they would not be allowed to have anything other than a hot dog cart, which would be inconsistent. But furthermore, I think that leaving CG out of the mix, what happens there is it allows the opportunity to ensure that we don't have any brick and mortar conflict, ex post facto. That's what we're doing there. If that's the case, I just for your consumption, why would a restaurant, other than if they had their kitchen being renovated so that they needed it, why would they have someone in their parking lot? They wouldn't. So really, by not having CG in there with some clean patternization, again, I understand you don't want to have the carnival-like environment, but I don't think it would exist. Let's say an auto parts location or I don't know, a clothing store, a large area parking location would like to have the food truck there. There is no correlation of competition. i.e., it's almost like a special event. But I just think that we should at least consider it because in many jurisdictions, it has been a marketable promoter for business and in the community. Again, specifically, why this all came up was a particular distributor had a particular food vendor there for more than 3 days, and there was a couple of code enforcement concerns. In essence, I have watched that business. There could be other factors. That food truck was a draw. And that food truck actually complemented the business. And people missed it until we abated the enforcement. And then it went back to, well, we can operate again. The challenge is the limitation on spots. So I think that's one that, well, if we have required spots, we shouldn't be reducing it below the number in which that site was approved for initially. So, but that's the only other comment.
Thank you, Commissioner. I think at this point, even though this is not officially legislative, let's open this to public comment. I know we have people that have patiently been waiting. If you would like to address this body and perhaps provide us some suggestions, some concerns that we can take forward as collectively, the administrator, our legal team, our commissioners, and our staff create, in fact, legislation, i.e. an ordinance in the future. So if anyone has any discussions, or if you'd like to reach out to us anytime soon, we would be happy to. Yes, sir. Name and record for the address, name and address for the record, please.
Morning, Chairman. I am Dane Jones, owner of Good Old Grind, 8850 North US Highway 1, Sebastian.
Welcome.
Just want to make noted, Mr. Flesher had answered all my concerns. So
Thank you very much.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you. Any further? Hearing none, we'll close the quasi, or not even quasi, the legislative.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Erman.
I do agree with about everything Commissioner Fleischer said. Reading the draft of the ordinance, one concern I had was the unpaved, or, they must operate on an unpaved or unimproved pervious surface unless it's part of an approved special event. They're going to have to operate sometime on grass. Not just at the fair, but at different events and things like that. I mean, we're going to make sure that that's okay. They may be they may have landowner's permission, but at times it's probably going to happen to where they have to operate on a grass surface. I would think that, we'd prefer them to be on a paved surface, but sometimes the grass thing would be that. I don't know how we'd enforce the times per se, whether you 9:30, 10 o'clock, midnight, other than that's just something to think about with regards to that. I think the key in here for most of this is they should have to have the owner's permission of the property. I think that's the key element in all this. If they have the owner's permission, I think they should be able to operate in that area. As regards to the furniture, I think as long as it's not making a carnival atmosphere, it's not impeding travel or impeding if there's another vendor there, which I know that's kind of what they do. I really don't see a problem with that, with regards to having something small out there, not in excess. That's really about all I have. I think Commissioner Fleischer summed up a lot of it, of what I'd like to see us take a look at, but and he makes a good point too. We haven't had an issue for the past 6 months. I don't think we're going to have any. I don't think we're going to have any more, and I think we need to be pro-business. I don't think it interferes. Some restaurant owners have been concerned, but that's when, to my knowledge, it's been when a food truck is basically in the parking lot in front of the restaurant. I mean.
Correct. And we
I mean,
can
it's-
hopefully legislate.
I think
common
that's
sense.
probably inappropriate, but but I don't think it's been a big issue. I think if we do, we'd have to address that at the time if we see that. But overall, with those few changes, I think Commissioner Fleischer summed it up. I think CG is something we need to look at for sure. And because it does happen, like you said, like you go to Lowe's has a hot dog stand in front of their building, but 100 feet out in the parking lot, there's a taco truck. You know, sometimes out in the parking lot. So, you know, if they had the owner's permission, that's their parking lot. You know, it's just something to work out. So that's kind of where I'm at, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
if I could, again, for the record, Ryan Sweeney, Assistant Planning Development Services Director. I'm picking up on sort of 3 key items that I do kind of want to seek firm direction on, so that when we bring it back, we're hopefully in good shape. As far as hours of op, we can just strike it entirely. I mean, currently, we do not regulate restaurant operation hours other than for the sale of alcoholic beverages, which stops at 2 a.m. So we can remove it in its entirety. We do still have the noise ordinance. So if they are operating, you know, adjacent to or nearby residential or even commercial, there are noise standards that's fine. Tables and tents, I would recommend that we do keep it fairly limited. I believe a 10 by 10 tent is exempt from fire code regulations, so we can do a 10 by 10 with a picnic table. Again, it can't impede sidewalks or handicap access or anything like that. And then as far as CG, my only suggestion for CG would be that it be CG, but with a minimum 3-acre site. We don't want to see a proliferation of these really small sites, like a convenience store or fast food's probably not an option, but dollar stores. Those sites are really tight. They typically don't have excess parking anyways. They're usually parked right at the number, so they wouldn't have the extra spaces. So, but shopping centers, Publix plazas, Home Depots, Lowe's, things that are on larger acreage sites typically do have excess parking. So I would just suggest if we're gonna go down the CG route that we have a minimum 3-acre. It'd be very straightforward for the operators to, you know, we have our zoning maps. They can very quickly check on property appraiser, oh yeah, it's at least 3 acres. We can even prepare maps that say these sites are what's allowed. So those are my suggestions. I don't know if we want to take an individual sort of consensus on each item or if we can just run with that.
Well, thank you, Mr. Sweeney. I think what we'll do is, after the discussion today, give your office and Ms. Prado and her office an opportunity to review some of the discussions that we've had with respect to that. And we look forward to when you bring this back to us so we can solidify and actually create legislation within the county with respect to our food trucks. Commissioners, we do not need a vote on this, as this is just a general discussion.
I do have a question. Ryan and Susan, was that enough direction to move forward, to bring something back?
Yes, I believe so. Yes, and we'll have to we'll re-advertise and have a subsequent public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Yes, this will be continued. So with that, at this time, it is 10:24.
We need a time certain, or a date certain on the continuance?
Mr. Chair, we'll re-advertise entirely, so we're not going to do an open and continue. We'll
Okay.
re-advertise.
That's okay. Thank you, Commissioner Fletcher, for looking out for me. At this time, this meeting is adjourned. We on recess, excuse me, not adjournment, recess until 10:30 a.m. Thank you.
I love that. I'm going to add that in.
The time is 10:30. Welcome back. If we can take our seats. Commissioners, the next item is 11A4. This is Hires Property LLC, request to rezone approximately plus or minus 18.08 acres from Ag District A1 to RS3, single-family residential, and this is in fact a quasi-judicial hearing. The parties involved are Indian River County as well as Hires Property LLC, which in fact is the applicant. At this part of the meeting, Commissioners, since this is quasi-judicial, I will ask that you disclose any ex parte communication, site visits, or independent investigations. Commissioner Moss.
Yes, sir, none to my knowledge.
None that I'm aware of.
None to my knowledge.
None that I'm aware of.
At this point, Commissioners, we will confirm that each of you have an open mind and are able to base their decisions on the evidence presented by the applicable law. Commissioner
Can and shall.
Can and will.
Can and will.
Can and will.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. At this point, we will open the public hearing. We will ask the clerk to swear in any witnesses that may be testifying collectively.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and thank you, potential witnesses.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning,
Fellow-
Patrick.
And fellow commissioners, for the record, I'm still Patrick Murphy and still the Chief of Long Range Planning. Here today to discuss the Hires Properties LLC rezoning request. A quick slide here in the development pattern and zoning history. This is an 18.08 acre site. It lies within the urban service area. It's on the south side of 8th Street, about 0.4 miles east of 58th Avenue. Contains an L1 low-density residential 1 future land use designation, allowing up to 3 units per acre, and it is currently zoned A1 agricultural zoning. I'm going to pause for a moment to mention that this property, as you look at the maps, may look a little familiar to you. This property did come before you in July of last year under a different applicant, I must make note of, for a planned development and named Floresta Gardens. That project was ultimately denied its approval, and it was recommended that this property seek an RS3 zoning category, which is what's consistent to the south and the east. And since then, a new applicant has taken over and submitted this application. So if it looks familiar, that's the reason why. The parcel has been zoned A1 since the adoption of the county's original zoning atlas and has historically been used for single-family residential purposes. Over the past 50 years, development along 8th Street has transitioned from agricultural uses to predominantly low-density, single-family neighborhoods, consistent with the L1 land use designation that this area exists upon. To the north, along 8th Street, are 4 A1 zoned single-family parcels created in the 1970s, including a 1.5 acre A1 parcel embedded in the subject site, but excluded from this request. All of these parcels are legally non-conforming due to their lot size. They're all less than 5 acres, which is the minimum for A1. Across 8th Street to the north are RS3 zone developments, including Laurel Oaks, Glendale Elementary School to the northeast, further to the northeast, Glendale Lakes, and farther, Hampton Park PD at the northwest. To the east and southeast are additional RS3 subdivisions such as Heron Crest, Indian Oaks, and large lot single-family homes. South of the subject site is the Cypress Lake PD, zoned RS3. To the west are A1 parcels with pasture land and single-family homes. The subject site is surrounded entirely by residential uses, and there are no adjacent commercial or industrial zones, ensuring consistency with the locational criteria outlined within Policy 1.43 of the Comprehensive Plan. Existing versus proposed zoning. The current zoning of A1 allows low-density residential, allowing 1 dwelling unit up to 5 acres. The proposed zoning of RS3 also allows single-family residential up to 3 units per acre, and the site is suited for residential infill development within the urban service area. Per Table 2.14 of the county's comprehensive plan, A1 zoning is not permitted under the property's L1 future land use designation. RS3, however, is an appropriate implementing district for the L1 designation and would bring the parcel into conformity with the county's plan. On this slide, you'll see a quick comparison for the development standards of A1 and RS3 in terms of its setbacks, lot width, and open space and lot coverage. Analysis per chapter 902.12 subsection 3, all rezoning items are evaluated against items A through K of this section of the LDRs. Item A deals with compatibility. Staff found no conflicts with the applicable land development regulations. For the requested RS3 zoning, RS3 is appropriate for this L1 designation. Item B, comprehensive plan elements. The proposed zoning is consistent with all elements of the comprehensive plan, aligning with policies 4.1, 2.2, 1.11, 1.12, and 1.43. Item C, land uses. The subject site is currently undeveloped, and the proposed RS3 zoning would not cause any conflicts. No land use amendment change is required for this request, since the zoning is consistent with its designation. The applicant's request brings the zoning into conformity with the future land use element. Items D through K, this happens to deal with the county's thoroughfare plan, roadway level of service, environmental conditions, public services, natural resources, compatibility, and compliance with county plans. Items D through K, staff has found no inconsistencies with these standards of review. Therefore, all rezoning review criteria have been satisfied. Conclusion and recommendation. The requested RS3 zoning district is compatible with the surrounding area, is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the county's adopted comprehensive plan, is consistent with the county's land development regulations, it's deemed suitable for the subject property, and supported by staff. With that, the Staff and Planning and Zoning Commission recommend that the Board of County Commissioners approve this request to rezone the subject property from A1 to RS3. I'd be happy to answer any questions the Commission may have. Also like to point out the applicant's representative is in attendance today, is here to answer any questions as well.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Commissioners, any questions of staff? Commissioner Moss.
Yes, thank you. For the community, so the most intense use of this property would go from 5 dwelling units to 54 dwelling units. So that's a tenfold increase on this property. I'm going to look at item E in the backup. I'm just going to read. This represents a theoretical increase of 482 daily trips at full build-out. The extent of any impact to 8th Street will depend on the specific development proposed at the subdivision or site plan stage. There's a real problem with doing this. I'm not going to let it affect my decision today, but I do want to consider this. You know, we rezone things, and it's theoretical, and it can lead to real problems. We already know from community outreach that the community is very concerned about traffic. You know, we already have data on that. So it's not my personal opinion. I want to be responsive to the community, although I certainly have experienced it along with the community. 8th Street, 58th and 8th, there's a lot of development there, and we need to consider, you know, the entire area. You know, I mean, it's like from 58th down to US 1 in the future. Again, I'm not going to have this effect today because I know that currently we allow this, we allow rezoning. But rezoning, to me, it's operating in the blind. It's too much theory. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't really know what we're approving. We've had before us on other matters, we've had people come in and complain about, well, why are you allowing, you know, another car wash? Why are you allowing another storage unit? Well, it's zoned for that. So zoning is really critical. I mean, you can have, you know, death by rezoning in this county. And that's a real concern of mine. So do you want to, you know, address any of that? Like, I don't know if you even can address traffic at this point, but you certainly know 8th Street, you certainly know the composition of, I mean, we can look at it, it's in the backup. You know, you can see how dense it is. And that one that's on the corner of 58th and 8th that, you know, people have complained to me about, and I haven't really even seen it, but somehow it's an, I don't know, I'm not sure how to characterize it. It's an insult or to the community.
Sure, yeah, Mr. Chair, again, for the record, Ryan Sweeney, Assistant Planning Development Services Director. So Again, as Mr. Murphy mentioned, this property was proposed to be developed under a planned development scenario last year. Under that scenario, they were proposing smaller lots with reduced setbacks. In fairness, even under that design with reduced setbacks and reduced lot widths, they were proposing a total of 44 units at 2.43 units per acre, still well below the 3 cap. So the term theoretical, it's not really theoretical, it's just basic math. You take 18.08 times 3, and that's what the number is. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, under conventional zoning, you just physically cannot get to that number with lot width, with stormwater, with roadway, with landscape, with all the other things that are required in our code. Generally, a really well-designed conventional subdivision would yield about 2 units per acre. So in that regard, we're looking more at something like 36 units. This also, I believe, in this particular case, this property, because a lot of the same area is in the cut and fill, so that's a whole nother level of potentially losing some units due to larger stormwater requirements. That being said, we are keenly aware of traffic, and if a subdivision is proposed, traffic would be looked at further. Just to be clear, at 35 units times roughly 10 trips per unit, that would actually be below the 400 trip threshold. So this particular property could even develop below the traffic study threshold. A larger project like Hampton Park with 150 units, that's a different scenario.
Well, thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Any further questions for Mr. Sweeney?
No, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I also wanted to tack on to the comments Mr. Sweeney just made, that when the previous project did come before us, it did propose a number of units that did trip the threshold for a full traffic study. They did submit one, and that study did not yield any actual physical improvements necessary to 8th Street to bring the level of service back up to acceptable standards. That level of development did not fail the road. The road improvements they were going to do were public benefits as part of that planned development. This particular project has anticipated about 35 units when you take out the road, the stormwater, the buffers, and the setbacks. And so it's even less than what the previous one was actually proposing.
We thank you for that, Mr. Murphy, and we certainly recognize that in the long debate we had in 2025 over this particular item. One thing for Mr. Sweeney, this in fact is within the urban service boundary.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
This neighborhood's in my hood. It's down in my area. I don't live very far at all from this. And we nixed the last one for basically the design and the compaction and of the houses and all that stuff. I'm glad to hear that this zoning gives us a little more room, a little more freedom. I, like Commissioner Moss, am concerned about 8th Street. I drive 8th Street all the time. This is on the south side, which has to go over to Indian River Farms Canal, so there only could be one exit, one entrance. They are fairly close to 58th. I assume that most traffic would go out that way where there is a stoplight at 58th and 8th Street, but still, going east, you don't get a stoplight till you hit 43rd. You have the school traffic and all that stuff. So I can see an issue with adding more cars down there with traffic with the school during school hours and et cetera. Yes, this is a much better zoning than the PD was for this area. I'm like everybody else. I'm not crazy about new rooftops in the county, but if it's a good idea, it meets the criteria, and you said it's within the urban service line, which I know it is. It's those are just some points I wanted to make, because those are my concern is basically more of the traffic on a 2-lane road that hasn't really been improved ever since it was built, other than it was widened a couple of feet when they repaved the road 20 or 30 years ago. That's my only concern, the fact that it's, again, another one-entrance subdivision where you've heard me in the past, especially down 43rd Avenue south of Oslo, why don't we have, two entrances and an exit and entrance in different locations? And just like the previous one we talked about today. So I really don't know what other further questions to ask, and I'm just kind of venting, so a little bit.
Appreciate that.
But other than that, that's what.
That, we'll hear from the applicant. Welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner. Members of the commission, my name is Dan Sorrow with Mill Short and Associate, representing the property owner and applicant, and we're in full agreement with staff's recommendation. I think that they've done a very good job of going through the analysis and bringing about the points after the PD was denied, I think, last year. This is really the next course of action for the property owner to have equity in the property. And, you know, this is in the urban service boundary, so the ag uses are no longer appropriate when you have water and sewer available. RS3 is the surrounding zoning district of all the similar properties to the north, the east, and the south. So it is a logical development pattern to first fill up the urban service boundary before you do areas outside the urban service boundary. So this is just a typical development pattern that you see in municipalities all throughout South Florida, and we thank you for this. And I think, as Mr. Murphy mentioned, we did prepare a initial conceptual plan. We yielded about 32 lots that were all the RS3, which are the 80 by 150 for the 12,000 square foot minimum. So you are providing a little bit of extra space on the side setbacks and rear setbacks and front yards. So we're excited to bring that plan before you in the future. And just thank you for your time this morning. Thank you for your service. Happy New Year, and appreciate the time this morning. Thank you.
Well, we thank you as well, sir. At this time, as part of the quasi-judicial, we will open this hearing up to the public. If you have any questions or concerns for the body, the applicant, or county officials, please step forward. Giving adequate time, we will now close the public hearing. This is an opportunity for final presentations by the county. Patrick, Ryan, if you have any. Seeing none and hearing none, final presentations by the applicant. Seeing none and hearing none. At this point, we'll make sure that all documents and tangible evidence have been admitted into the evidence and are in the hands of our clerk. So noted. The county staff agenda materials are automatically admitted into evidence unless there are any objections. At this point, again, we will close the public hearing. Commissioners, your thoughts and concerns and direction suggested.
Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to move approval.
We have a motion by Commissioner Adams, a second by myself. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. And the motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Jordan and Mr. Sweeney. Commissioner, the next item on the list brings us to departmental matters, and we will entertain B, Community Services. 13B1 is the Children's Services. Sorry?
We actually have Kathy Copeland, who's, remember we amended.
I'm sorry about that. I didn't make that note. Welcome, Ms. Copeland, under item 12. Didn't notice that one.
You're going to let them go first.
Go flying.
Yeah.
For the record, I'm Kathy Copeland, Legislative Affairs and Communications Manager. Thank you. Well, today kicks off legislative session, and as promised, I am here to give you a status on the bill that we expected to drop related to the Fellsmere Water Control District. Actually, 2 bills dropped on Saturday, and I just want to give you a status of where we are and kind of how it looks like it's going to proceed, just because a local bill is different from a regular bill in that it moves fairly quickly, and the legislative delegation is primarily in control of its path. So both members of our delegation, Senator Grahl and Representative Brackett, have had numerous conversations and meetings with different entities, including the county. And all people are working very well together, I will say. There's a lot of good faith effort. There's a lot of good faith activity that has been going back and forth, and I'm encouraged by that. So I right now just want to let you know, you can flip to, well, I guess I'm supposed to be doing that, sorry. So primarily, we're dealing with the Fellsmere Water Control District because they are the ones that have basically asked, I think, for this based on an outcry from the residents. It's my understanding that this is not a knee-jerk reaction. These are conversations that have been going on for years. The residents that I have talked to have expressed that they really would desire more transparency in how the water control system is operated. And specifically, they are concerned about the maintenance of the canals, which in talking with our county staff, we have those concerns as well. So these are the players that we're dealing with at the Fellsmere Water Control District. And as you can see, most of these special districts are very old. They were established to allow for farmlands to be habitable and to be made so that they could actually farm the land, because most of us, as we know, Florida was a swamp prior to us turning it into commerce and us being able to live here. So what we're dealing with now is the difference between a dependent district and an independent district. Right now, the Fellsmere Water Control District is an independent district, a 298 district established by Florida Statute 298. What is proposed is for the Water Control District to become a dependent district under the governance of the Indian River County Board of County Commissioners. As such, the Board of County Commissioners, if this bill passes, would appoint themselves as the board for the Water Control District and be responsible for the maintenance of the canals for water conveyance and flood control. The funding for this activity is an assessment to the property owners. And in this transaction, if this happens, all the things that would be included are the property, a building, and everything in the building, a piece of equipment, and their reserve, money in the bank. So just so for the public, so you can understand the difference, a dependent district, again, is governed by a legislative or a county or city government. An independent district is an elected board. They have a much greater autonomy, which has been part of the problem in that the people feel like there's more accountability if they are governed by a county. We have also had many conversations with the city of Fellsmere. In the beginning, Mr. Dill, their attorney, was opposed to this. He had a lot of concerns. We've been working through those. They have been working through those. And in our conversations, I have been checking in just to make sure that they're comfortable. And my latest conversation with Armando this morning, the city manager, was that they are not opposed to the split. They just want to make sure that the annexation is acknowledged in the legislation and that it is understood that any land use or development issues would be subject to their comprehensive plan, which everybody has agreed that that is the case. And so I think now they're moving to a place where they're more comfortable. I'm going to redo that bill, that slide for you, because I want to give, and we can post it on the website, because I want it to reflect exactly as it is posted, because people are very attached to words, and I don't want anybody to get confused. So I will redo that slide and make sure it's on our website. But in essence, the Headwaters Water Control District will become a public corporation. It will provide the district's charter, it'll establish its boundaries, it will provide for maintenance and use of certain canals, and that is obviously part of the back and forth. How do we describe that? The dependent district, which is House Bill 4093, will provide for the district as a dependent district under the Indian River County Board of County Commissioners and governed by the commission, and it will provide for maintenance and use of certain canals. The county commission will then have the opportunity to establish its own charter, which could include how you receive impact or input from the citizens. They would like a formal board. In conversations with them, we've talked about all the different kinds of citizen boards, and that's something that they will definitely want to discuss with you if this does go through. Just for the record, I have advised them that the county commission is definitely open to public engagement and citizen advisory committees, but to anticipate that they would they will not be part of the board that governs the district. They will be an advisory. They will have input into how, just like you do with the SWID and just like you do with emergency services. So the other thing that has been discussed and the other caution that I have given the citizens is that you have to be careful what you put in legislation, because if you do ever want to go change a provision, it opens up the entire bill. So everything that you got that was good is also back on the table. So that's the reason why there's a lot of deliberation right now. Both Senator Graw and Representative Brackett in a delegation meeting did state clearly that they wanted the Board of County Commissioners to be comfortable with the legislation. The bill as it exists right now is not what is anticipated to be final law, and all entities understand that, and that's why there's so much conversation. The goal is to have the refinements to all the legislation done in the First Amendment that will go before the committee, the first committee stop. Normally, a local bill will probably go to about 3 committees. We anticipate that this will come up in a couple of weeks. And then hopefully we can all agree to a language in the amendment that we're comfortable with if indeed this looks like it's going to go through. The House is in charge of a local bill, so Representative Brackett is in full control. Once he puts it out there, which it is out there now, he can pull it at any time if it does not feel like it's where it needs to be. Typically, the House bills, once they get approved by the House side, they go over as a package to the Senate. And at that point in time, Senator Graw will look at it, and if she is not comfortable that all parties are represented, she has the authority to pull it. So there's a lot of checks and balances along the way. And I just wanted to make sure that you all understood the difference between the local bill and a regular bill and kind of the path that this was on, and where you can interject and state whatever, whether you're comfortable, whether you have questions, markers that you want to put down. I just wanted to be fully transparent because at the beginning of the session, or when we started committee weeks and I brought the priorities forward, I promised you that I would keep you informed about this. And now that it has been dropped and it's in play, I want you to have the opportunity to discuss it if you want to.
Thank you very much for that. I trust fellow commissioners that Ms. Copeland and Mr. Tatanich have shared what we just heard independently with you. I know I had about a 25, 30-minute conversation with exactly what she said, so I feel confident that we, in fact, are informed. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, yes, I believe Commissioner Adams, as she was on the city council in Fellsmere, we may recall some fervent discussions, concerns, and shortcomings of production or sustainability to the community. It's been a long journey. I think I'm quite refreshed with the actions, the thought process, the legislative update. I did have that conversation as you had, Mr. Chairman. And I just like, there was some concerns and housekeeping. items, such as the assumability of the lease on the piece of equipment, which is vital to the whole operation.
Correct.
That's been explored, and I understand Mr. Uli has looked deeper into this?
Yes,
and-
sir. There's actually 3 items that we were concerned about, and let me also explain that if the bill passes, let's say in March, it would not go into effect until October. So that gap raised a lot of flags for us as staff. What happens during that time? And what happens between now and then, because they are on a different cycle? They will decide on their assessment sometime in May. We will not, if this bill passes, takes over till October. And so we need to understand what money are they spending, what are they obligating, because all of that would come to the county. So the items that we were looking at were the equipment lease, which it is our understanding that we can opt out of that lease if we need to. Danny, and he can speak for himself, but he has expressed that we would want to continue that for now. The other one is a contract that they had bid out in November, and they are going to actually schedule to vote on it tonight. We asked them to hold off on that, to give Danny an opportunity to review that contract, because we were concerned that whatever, they said they were taking care of hot spots. We wanted to make sure that those hot spots were, that we agreed with the same. And so Danny took it home last night and basically scrubbed the contract, and you can tell them for yourself, but he said he was pleasantly surprised.
Good morning, Danny Uli, Assistant Public Works Director. And yes, I did, after our meetings yesterday, I did take the contract home last night. I came in early this morning and went over it some more, made some highlights, and I was very impressed in what they put in that contract versus what we have seen from them in the past. What is in that contract, all the verbiage would lead to what, if this passes, we will have a head start come October, because everything we need and what we want and what the residents need is in that contract. So if we move forward with the contract, the work will begin in Fellsmere, in that water control district that we are talking about right now. So come October 1st, if we take over, we have a giant foot forward in getting things taken care of. A couple of items that did catch my eye that I mentioned to Kathy this morning as well is they've actually put in that contract for emergency on-call, such as in rainy season when the county is getting these phone calls at 1 or 2 in the morning. This contractor, until October, if the bill passes, will be maintaining that. They are on standby at night, weekends, holidays, any of those times that we have been covering in the past. And I took that as a good thing for the residents and for us at the same time. So that gives us some breathing room to get this on the right track.
Thank you.
What you're saying is that we're in the receivership of a reasonably sound product. Yes, albeit it does need some work.
Yes, sir.
But it's the transference, it will be a clean obligation as opposed to, look what we got into.
Exactly. Yes, sir.
It'll be a step in the right direction for sure. And I think the good faith effort in talking with the Fellsmere Water Control District and Mr. Nelson, he wanted to make sure that he said that he had heard loud and clear from Representative Brackett, he had heard loud and clear from the residents, and he understood all of our concerns, City of Fellsmere, the county, that there were certain spots in the canal that really needed attention, and he wanted that contract, he did not want to pull the contract because he wanted it clear that he intended to follow through with it. He was only willing to pull it if we were not comfortable. So as of right now, I told him I would text him after we had this meeting, because now I'm getting from Danny that he thinks it's a good idea for them to go ahead and award the contract. There is another contract with SDS, which is Special District Services, and that is for the actual operation of the district. And there's Mark Mathis is the general manager, but then they have a contract with SDS. Their original contract included management of the canal and all. We asked them to take that out, and so now we have under review a contract that is just for the actual operations of the district. And I believe it's like $40,000 or something like that, but it looks like we would probably want that to continue too, especially over the period of time until a transition can happen if the bill passes, because for auditing purposes and budgeting purposes, and they keep the records, they manage the website, they do it all.
I just,
Encouraged that Mr. Greg Nelson is very supportive and embracing of this as well.
Mr. Administrator.
I just want to also add that we did review their financial report, their audit that was as of September 30th, 2024, and looked at they do have a positive fund balance. I think it's about $300,000. And then we did review the budget that's active for this fiscal year. And in terms of debt, the only debt they have is the capital lease payment for the 2023 excavator. And that's what Danny's going to look at and make a decision whether we continue that or we look to purchase one, because at some point it might be cheaper to just purchase one than.
Yeah, we talked about the arrangement with the capital equipment as well, so. It's good news. It's good news for Fellsmere, and it's good news for our staff. In other words, we won't be scrambling, hopefully, as much to assist other parties.
Mr. Chair, just real quick, I want to very much thank Representative Brackett and Senator Grall for bringing this forward and working that bill. And I'd also like to thank my fellow commissioners for letting us participate in those conversations. But I really want to express our thanks to the East Fellsmere Landowners Group, or EFLOG for short, for all their work on this over many, many, many years. They have really been engaged as an advocacy group, and I think that's helped us get through this process. So I want to thank them for their engagement.
And if I can just give kudos to that group too, because I have just really started engaging with them because I really wanted to understand what their concerns were, because they're so close to it, to make sure that in reading the legislation that we weren't missing something. And there were several of them that went through line by line and have provided a list line by line of where they're concerned, what the concern is. We have looked at it on a map, so it's very helpful. And I think it took a lot of time for them to do that, and they're very passionate about what this outcome is going to look like. And so it's helpful to all of us who are looking at it to make sure that the county gets a sound product out of this legislation, but also to make sure that the concerns that have been expressed for so many years are taken care of in legislation.
Thank you, Ms. Copeland, and for the presentation, Mr. Uli. We trust that you will continue to update us as the session, which has now been started for an hour and a half, kicks off, and we wait patiently for any clarification or help that you may need.
Okay,
Thank you.
and we do have 1,750 bills so far, and 250 were dropped on Friday, so it's a crazy session already.
Right. Exciting times. Thank you.
Not this one.
Commissioners, that brings us up now to 13B, Community Service, which we've all been waiting patiently for. 13B1, the Children's Services 2024-2025 Annual Report. And it appears that we have Ms. Emerson and Ms. Kendrick presenting. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. For the record, Cindy Emerson, Community Services Director. Today, we are so pleased to present to you a brief overview of our annual report, along with an update of the Children's Services Needs Assessment. This work really reflects in both the outcomes of the programs funded by the Board of County Commissioners and the data that guides how we strategically invest our resources in the most critical needs of children and families in Indian River County. Today, I'm really pleased to present. We have Megan Kendrick, our Human Services Administrator, Robert Catapano, our Human Services Coordinator, and our new part-time position with Ashley Baker, our new Data Analyst. And I'm going to turn it over to Megan Kendrick.
Are we in morning or afternoon? Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for having us here today. Like Ms. Emerson said, today we're going to be presenting our 24-25 annual report as well as our 2026 needs assessment update. Before I begin, I'd like to say thank you to all of you sitting up there today. Without your support and guidance, the impact you're about to see would not be possible. I also want to quickly thank the nonprofits that serve our children and families for their continued commitment to attending professional development and improving their craft and strengthening their programs. I would like to thank my amazing team. I could not do this work without them. Their dedication and passion to serving children and families can be seen across our community. I'd also like to thank Ms. Emerson for her strong guidance and her passion and her leadership. And with that, it is important for me to note that this year's theme is Every Child Deserves a Hero. We made a video with the team, and we just hope you enjoy not only the video, but what it shows and the impact that your work has made.
Hi. I may not know all the big words or numbers, but I know this. Because of you, I have help when I need it. Because of you, my family is stronger. Because of you, I have a chance to succeed. Thank you, Board of County Commissioners, for continuing to support children's services and the programs that support kids like me. Every child deserves a hero. And because of you, we have one.
Can you bring it back to the
This
beginning
is
real
our
quick?
story.
We did check it yesterday,
And
and
this
it
is
played
our
great,
impact.
so we did a tech check.
CSAC-funded
There we go.
programs are doing more than delivering services. They are strengthening outcomes year over year. Over the past 2 years, program performance has significantly improved, with the percentage of outcomes met increasing from 61% to 93%.
That investment is making a difference across all 3 funding priorities: health and well-being, nurturing families and communities, and success in school and life. This year, CSAC-funded programs delivered more than 21,000 touchpoints with children, youth, and families across Indian River County. Each touchpoint represents a meaningful interaction, support, education, or prevention that helps turn funding into measurable outcomes.
More than 9,000 children were reached through early childhood development programs. Over 1,700 students participated in programs strengthening math and reading skills. More than 5,000 youth were supported through programs reducing at-risk behaviors. And over 1,500 parents and caregivers increased their understanding of children's social and emotional needs through research-based trainings.
The outcomes truly tell the story.
Because of CSAC-funded early learning programs, 83% of participating children scored at or above the state benchmark on the VPK assessment.
85% of students in small group reading support and 95% of students in small group math tutoring showed measurable learning gains.
93% of youth engaged in prevention programming showed significant improvement in making safe and healthy choices. And 100% of fathers participating in children's services funded programs increased their knowledge of how to support their children's emotional well-being and positive behavior.
In addition to funding programs, CSAC staff partners with community experts to build capacity across funded agencies, strengthening program outcomes, creating greater impact, building stronger boards, and helping agencies diversify funding. Every funded agency participated in professional development this year, and 93% report they are already implementing what they learned to strengthen their programs.
Accountability remains at the core of our work. CSAC completed 100% of required site visits, conducting over 132 walkthrough evaluations to ensure programs align with their grant applications, and 100% of quarterly reports were submitted and reviewed, ensuring transparency, performance tracking, and responsible stewardship of public funds.
These highlights represent only a portion of the impact achieved through children's services funding. For full transparency, the complete annual report, with detailed outcomes and program results is available on the Children's Services website. Because when community support turns investment into action, outcomes improve, families are strengthened, and children thrive.
And when we come together, every child has a hero. Hi. I may not know all the big words or numbers, but I know this. Because of you, I have help when I need it. Because of you, my family is stronger.
As we're turning it off,
Because of you, I have a chance to succeed. Thank you.
are there any questions about the annual report?
Fellow Commissioners, any questions?
No, it was awesome.
Did it.
Yeah. I just want to thank Ashley for her commitment to that video. We are learning, we are getting better, but she was steadfast in making sure that got done, and it had all the graphics, and I can't thank her enough. All right, now moving on, we're going to just do a very quick update on the needs assessment. If there's any questions afterwards, I'm happy to answer it for you. We have a needs assessment subcommittee that is comprised of local experts across health, education, and family systems. We do a comprehensive 5-year needs assessment with annual updates using hundreds of local, state, and data points, community feedback, and local subject matter expertise. And we're up now. This needs assessment identifies the most pressing needs of children and families in Indian River County. This needs assessment is a living, data-driven framework which establishes funding priorities and focus areas. It's updated annually, like I said, to identify any shifts, trends, and emerging needs. This year, we really focused on parent and caregiver feedback. With over 400 feedback responses from local parents and caregivers, we were able to identify themes that these families wanted. We had 426, which actually makes this statistically relevant as well, just to note. And the needs assessment directly drives the CSAC request for proposal. The needs assessment has identified 3 funding priorities: health and well-being, nurturing families and community, and success in school and life. The key themes we heard from parents and caregivers across Indian River County were, number 1, they wanted easier access to mental health with fewer revolving doors. They're looking for more affordable, quality early learning. They would like more mentoring and structured support for teens, a focus on real-world skill building with things like financial literacy, trades, and soft skills, and they'd like us to continue to support tutoring, after-school, and summer academic support. Although we have made a lot of progress, like you saw in the annual report, sorry, skipping one of the slides, there we go. There is still work to be done. In health and well-being, we've seen gains in prenatal care and declining substance use, but we are also seeing rising teen birth, mental health concerns, a surge in childhood obesity, and a growing special needs enrollment across our county. This highlights the need for continued early intervention and coordinated support in the area of health and well-being. And nurturing family and community, the data shows progress in reducing childhood adversity and serious juvenile offenses, but rising mental health crisis, student homelessness, and juvenile misdemeanors are still something we're seeing an increase in, which shows the need to strengthen prevention and early intervention. And finally, in our last one, success in school and life, we have seen a lot of success and a lot to celebrate around strong academic performance and high graduation rates. However, we are looking at a decline in kindergarten readiness, persistent chronic absenteeism still is an issue, parent demand for real-world skill building that signals the help for early education supports and expanded pathways to college and career readiness. From needs to actions, this framework directly informs funding decisions, priorities, and strategies to improve outcomes. And if you want to see the programs that are chosen based off this needs assessment, we do have a GIS map. This will represent all programs that are funded through the BOCC on our Children's Service website. If you would like to see the complete needs assessment and all the updates, you can access it through this QR code, or you can visit our website, Children's Services, on the county main website. With that, thank you again, and if there's any questions, we're happy to answer them.
Great, well, thank you, Commissioners. We do need direction to accept the previous matter, which was the annual report.
Move approval?
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussions about the annual report? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. And the motion carries. Commissioners, we also just heard the needs assessment report. I think some of the key trends that Ms. Kendrick mentioned certainly are concerning that allows us to probably agree that we have a lot of work ahead of us. And you know, some of those trends can be, I guess, universally accepted throughout the nation. Don't know, but certainly work to do for us. I don't believe we need any action on that, but thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Adams, thank you for your leadership and being the liaison to CSAC. We'll see you at 3 o'clock today.
At 3 o'clock.
I'll wear my cape, my hero cape.
Commissioners, before we get into the group health insurance, would you like a 5-minute break, or would you like to carry on?
Whatever your pleasure is, Mr. Chair.
At this time, we will take a quick recess, and we will reconvene at 11:26. Welcome back. The time now is 11:27 for the 13th of January, 2026. We now, fellow commissioners, go to item 13D under Human Resources, and this is Group Health Insurance Update, January 2026, and I see our Human Resource Director,
Yes,
Suzanne
thank-
Boyle. Welcome and good morning.
Thank you, Commissioners. Suzanne Boyle, Director of Human Resources, and I have Rachel Friedman with Lockton and Tressa Crescen with Lockton, who was here back in June when I last spoke with you about our health plan. At that time, the board, we had a lot of discussion about how the health plan was doing. It was interesting, I was reviewing my notes from that agenda item, and back in June, we had a discussion about the GLP-1 medications and just how the plan was performing. And at that time, we projected a $3.24 million shortfall between funding and what our projected experience was going to be under the plan. I do want to note that our insurance trust fund is very well funded. It was very well funded at that time, and it still remains very well funded. So what we agreed to do was to renew the plan with no benefit changes. We left everything the same. The premiums were the same. All the benefits would be the same, and we would monitor it and report back to you, and that's what we're doing here today. Lockton provided me with the year-end financials for the plan. That was a part of the agenda item that was placed in and provided to you for review. Under those financials, we actually ended the plan year with, instead of a $3.24 million deficit, a $2.5 million deficit. So we did better than we actually projected, which is good news. But we do have some increased expenses that happened in the prior plan year. We discovered that our medical claims increased by 19.2% over the prior plan year, and then our pharmacy claims increased by 32.2%. The total medical claims were $17.4 million, and the total pharmacy claims, less our rebates, were $7.4 million. In that plan year, out of those medical claims, there were 75 high-cost claimants. A high-cost claimant is someone who has over $50,000 in medical bills over the plan year. And those medical bills for those 75 high-cost claimants were $8.6 million. So to kind of let you know, the former year that ended in September of 2024, we had a total, instead of the 17.4 million in claims, we had 14 million. So we went up from 14 million to 17.4 in that 1 year period. And we went from 62 high-cost claimants at 6.6 million to ending this past year with 75 high-cost claimants at 8.6 million. So you see our medical experience increased by $2 million in that regard. And then when we look at our pharmacy, I told you that we ended the year with claims of $7.4 million. Well, I had a $2 million increase there too. The prior plan year, we were at $5.4 million. So we increased $2 million on our medical, $2 million on our prescriptions. And out of that that increase on our prescriptions, there was a $2.3 million of our claims, of those $7.4 million in claims, was attributed to the GLP-1 weight loss medications that we allow under our plan. Now, what's interesting to note is those GLP-1 utilizations, I think we may have done a little bit better because there are people that go on the medications and they don't stay on it. It doesn't work for them, so they come off of it. So our numbers, I think, went down a little bit when we ended the year. So we kind of ended the year with a few less participants on the medication. The other thing that was interesting to note is going into this plan year, we required every person who was on the GLP-1 medication with our new pharmacy benefit manager, Rightway, to go through a prior authorization process. So they had to reapply and go through a process to make sure that they met the program criteria to be on the GLP-1 for weight loss medications. So I just wanted you to know that every person who was being prescribed the GLP-1 medication received notification and told that by December 30th, they needed to basically go through that process again. So I'm going to pause for a moment there and just ask if you have any questions about those numbers or what I've reviewed with you.
Thank you, Suzanne. So on 12/31 of '25, those affected members have been notified. So I think your backup says we'll discuss this again in March of '26. So by then, you should have some pretty solid numbers, and one would anticipate a reduction, in fact, in the prescriptions.
We're hoping that the costs will have been moderated a little bit. It does seem to be that we may not have as many individuals on it at this time, but that was our last discussion before the holidays.
Yeah, so just to add there, there was a decrease in utilizers for that October data. It's slowly ticking up for November and December, but again, the key is going to be that first quarter of 2026 when those prior authorization really takes effect. So that will be more telling than what we've seen this year to date.
So in March, my plan is to bring back data that would be through the December 31st date to see where we're at, what does it look like. And then we also had some better pricing through Rightway on our GLP-1. That was one of the reasons why we went with Rightway, is they had a better pricing for us than the prior PBM when we were looking at all of our medication costs.
Are the diabetics that are on GLP, are they separated from the weight loss?
They are, yes.
You got diabetes and you got weight loss.
Yes.
Got to have the authorization for that.
But is it all in that figure, in that number, or no?
So the total, when we ended the plan year with the $2.5 million deficit, that considered everything. Considered our medical, considered all of our pharmacy expenses, but the cost attributed to the weight loss medications, and it's $2.3 million was the cost, but that was before rebates, correct?
Correct, that was before rebates. And then if you look at just the GLP-1s for diabetics, that's going to be another 1.3 million. So that is two separate figures.
And what's interesting is some of the individuals who may be on the medication for weight loss, we talked about they could transition to for diabetes, because that is sometimes also a diagnosis that they have, yes. Yes.
And subsequently, just since the December meeting, a few new medications have come out that
Yes.
could be substituted and are far less costly to the institution. Is that correct information?
So there is new medication that's coming out. Lockton's very familiar with those marketplace changes, but there's a lot happening and a lot of change. Tressa, did you want to speak about that?
Yeah, I was going to say, you're correct that there was only one new medication in the weight loss space recently, and that was a pill, a tablet version of Wegovy for weight loss, GLP-1. And unfortunately, their direct-to-consumer pricing for members when they start out is about $149 over the counter, or their direct-to-consumer option. But when you're looking at it on the pharmacy plan, the cost for the average wholesale price, which is what the pharmacy benefit managers use, is the same price as the injectable. We were hoping when it came to market, it would be a little cheaper, given that the injectable has a really intricate way of administering. The pill, you just take it, but it is the same price currently.
And one other question, it's, although this is a local concern, have you seen a national concern for it as well, that this driving mechanism to look at alternatives?
Correct. Just overall, the price, the cost is something, you know, we know that there are tons of people out there that meet the criteria to take the medications, but the cost has always been a concern, a cost for employer groups to cover on the plan and cost to patients. We've seen a lot since our June meeting, it was, of the direct-to-consumer market take place. So you have the makers of Wegovy, the makers of Zepbound, which are the two most popular GLP-1s for weight loss, have come up with these direct-to-consumer programs. So essentially, you could go to Costco or through the manufacturer's website and get the medication for as low as $199 for the starting dose. And it goes up, just depending on the dosage, to $299, $349, up all the way to about $450. So that is something good that has come out, because a member, if it's not covered on your insurance plan, you could essentially go to the manufacturer and get it for a lower price than what the employer group could even buy it on the insurance plan for.
So it appears that there are options should we find the numbers to be awakening.
Correct. And there's also mechanisms by which we're seeing employer groups being able to fund the direct-to-consumer pricing via way of an HRA card, so that you're not completely removing the coverage in the sense that it's now 100% on the employees. You could at least subsidize a portion of that if that were a direction you went in.
That's more encouraging than we were initially
Mhm.
advised.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're really hopeful that there have been a lot of positive changes with the pricing, with the direct-to-consumer, and we've had a lot of discussions. It's a very new market for these facilitated direct-to-consumer benefits that employers are trying to see if there's another offering, because many employers have come to the conclusion that it needs to be off of the health plan so that the cost is a lower cost in the direct-to-consumer model, and that it doesn't impact the health plan premiums. So we've seen that happen a lot. So Lockton's been really staying on top of it, and I'm hopeful that we'll have some really good options available if that is the decision that the board has to go in, you know, based on funding and financials and just where we're at. The other thing I did want to take a moment to discuss with you is our health center. And I do not have a direct correlation of how many members in the health center might be also taking the GLP-1s for weight loss medication. But what I do have is biometric tracking of our members in that health center. And there's some really encouraging information that's coming out on our health center metrics that are coming back. So out of 1,005 patients, there were improvements in 601 of those individuals in their various areas. And I can only extrapolate that there is a portion of our membership that is going to the health center that is also taking GLP-1 medications. So this means their body mass is being reduced. Their diastolic blood pressure and systolic blood pressures are improving. Their A1C is improving. Their HDL and LDL and the ratio of that cholesterol is improving, and triglycerides. So there is marked improvement that people who are achieving weight loss goals with the help of the GLP-1 medication are experiencing. And I just think that needs to be understood, that the medication is providing a benefit to many of our members who are on it. Now, some members, there's side effects, and it impacts them negatively, and they decide they don't want to go that route. But I did just want the board to be aware that through our health center, the population is improving in these areas biometrics, and that's a real positive and just a testament to the work that the staff at the health center is doing to help support health and wellness with Indian River County. And also, I'd like to thank the board for their support of that health center. I think that was a really, really great benefit to provide to our members, so thank you.
Thank you, and that health center has become very popular, so we do appreciate that, and we know when we approved that some years ago that our return on investment probably is still 6 to 7 years away, but look forward to that, and thank you,
Yes.
Suzanne.
Yes.
Any
So-
further comments?
Oh, just,
ahead.
I'll come back in March and
Yes,
give
you
you
will.
another update.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Commissioners, that brings us on to Public Works. This 13J1, the adoption of Indian River County Public Works Department standard details and policies. Commissioner,
Good morning, everyone. David Scriber, Acting Public Works Director, and with me is Wendy Smith. Wendy's our right-of-way permitting administrator, and Wendy's been, has really taken the lead in the development of these standards and policies that we're asking you to adopt with this proposed resolution. So we're here to answer any questions you may have with that, if you have any.
well, we thank you and welcome. I do think it's a fresh look at this so-called dilemma. And Dave and Winnie, I want to thank you for a fresh breath of common sense when it comes to this. And I think everyone here will be equally benefited by a reduction in calls and concerns that we get along this journey. And we've all gotten those, and like I said, it's a dose of common sense, and we thank you.
Thank you. I really would like you to thank Wendy, because Wendy's been the spearhead of this whole thing. She's done a wonderful job. She ran the work group. She ran this thing all the way to the point where we are now, and she's done a spectacular job.
Thank you very much. Wendy, any questions, Commissioners?
No.
I know Commissioner Erman, you had.
Mr. Chairman, if y'all want to speak on this, but I think I understand it. These are standard things that y'all get asked a lot, and it takes the guesswork or somebody's self-interpretation out of this to make sure that everybody knows. Basically, you can say, here, this is what we do. If you want any changes to make it bigger or better or something like that, then you come back with those plans. And yeah, and I think this is been way overdue, and I'm glad y'all do it. And Wendy, thanks for all the work you've done on it.
Yes.
And David and Danny, y'all have done just a yeoman's job down there in Public Works, like the chairman said. You know, I know my phone calls have gone way down. There's always going to be something, but I mean, it's Public Works. It's a moving item every day, literally and figuratively. But y'all have done a great job, and I really appreciate everything that y'all have done in the last 4 or 5 months. It's just been absolutely a breath of fresh air.
Well, thank you very much. And speaking for Danny, I'll try to speak for Danny and myself. We thank you for that recognition and that you see that Public Works is doing better and doing, moving right along.
Well, thank you. And it took guesswork out, and we're able to have a defined process, so to speak. Mr. Administrator.
Yeah, I also want to thank staff, Wendy, everybody that contributed to this project. I think the predictability, clarifications, establishing expectations, and providing these details and the standards will aid in the process of getting better submittals and also more timely review completed. So I know it wasn't an easy lift. I mean, there's 10 policies, 10 standards, and it's like, well, what do you want from me? Well, here it is. Oh, wow, this is great. And utilities did this not, but I think about a year and a half ago, and it's helped. So now with Public Works doing the same, I just can't thank you enough, because it's certainly going to impact our customers, and we appreciate that very much. Appreciate all your work and effort, Wendy, as well as, Dave and Danny. and everybody else that helped.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. Without any further discussion on that, we will advance. Thank you very much, and we'll see you at the next round, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Next is the county the county attorney matters, the Value Adjustment Board.
Did you vote on that? I did.
Oh, yes, you do. See,
It's a resolution?
yeah, it's,
So did we have to vote on that?
please, because previously the board, the desire was that the department had adopted these, and now we just fundamentally believe that the board needs to adopt these policies.
Move to approve?
Second. We have a motion by Commissioner Moss, a second by Commissioner Fletcher. Any further comment? I think she beat him, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hearing none, all in favor? Aye, and the motion carries. Thank you for that. The next matter will be addressed by the county attorney's office.
That's right. You have two commissioners that sit on the Value Adjustment Board, Commissioners Fletcher and Ehrman, and the board is required to elect a chair and vice chair.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Erman.
I want to tell you that the Value Adjustment Board is one of the most efficient financially and responsibility in what they do that the county has. And we give all that thanks. I wish we could give it to Commissioner Fleischer and myself, but Terry Collins Lister does an outstanding job with that program. But we did have more meetings last year because of the state required us to have an additional meeting. So we had 3, maybe 4 meetings. So we were overworked and underpaid as usual, but it all went well. With that being said, though, in all seriously, that's a very important board, probably one of the most important boards in the county. But luckily, and just to show how well it's operating, all our requests for hearings were down this year, and everything got settled. It was a pretty easy year. But I did my time as chairman this last year, and it's now I'd like to nominate Commissioner Fleischer for chairman for the upcoming year.
We have a motion by Commissioner Erman and a second by Commissioner Adams.
See how the year goes if I say thank you.
We do want to do this?
Any further discussion? All in favor of Commissioner Erman being the chair of the Value, or Commissioner Fleischer being the chair of the Value Adjustment, state by aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Congratulations, Commissioner Fleischer.
Like I said, we'll wait till the end of the year to see if the thanks are in order.
Right.
But I want to thank Commissioner Ehrman being the chair this past year. It appears that we have had the opportunity to work together at the Value Adjustment Board for several years, and with this new assignment where it has to be done at the board, we have carried on the tradition of alternating positions, but it's a pleasure and an honor at this point.
Is that a nomination?
At this point, we have the opportunity to nominate as vice chair Commissioner Joe Ehrman, and that is my motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Fleischer, a second by Commissioner Adams. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Commissioner Erman, congratulations on being Vice President of the Value Adjustment Board. I know that you and Chairman Fleischer will do a wonderful job.
Let her read.
Right. With that, Commissioners, it will bring us to public comments on any non-agenda items. Public comment for any non-agenda items. I would ask that in being consistent with the practices of most recently, that you state your name, your address, and you limit your questions and concerns to 3 minutes. Additionally, this body does not get involved in dialogue with any of your questions or concerns. Welcome and thank you.
Judy Greenberg. I'm with the Roseland Women's Club in Roseland. And I have with me, and you have a flyer, and I have with me, I wanted to introduce one of our newer members, Diana Spalding. Diana. And she's, again, one of our newer members, but she has stepped right up and taking some leadership. And today we're here to invite you to our 3rd annual Roseland celebration. And you have the flyer. It's the Giving Hearts Market. And Diana is actually chairing the bake sale. So we're bringing back our traditional wonderful bake sale. I know I'm doing my grandma's sour cream pound cake. So, I see. So you can either get a slice or a whole cake if you would like. That's going to be February 7th. And as part of that, we went down this trail of doing a wildflower demonstration garden, similar to what you have out in the front of the building here, much smaller scale, but we did get a grant for that. So you see on the back side, we've actually worked through this whole project with the help of the Parks and Recs Department, and we really appreciate, they built a beautiful stone wall that contains this garden. It was just, we have pictures on Facebook. It's just amazing. And we are going to dedicate that at 10 o'clock. And any of you that can come out and participate with that dedication and enjoy some good food truck food, some bake sale.
Well, thank you.
And so that's what we're here for, and we appreciate your continued support with using that building, and we continue looking and exploring different ways to use the building for community benefit. Any questions? Because we welcome questions if you want to have one.
Thank you. We don't engage in that, but we do appreciate it. We will see you there. I was the proud recipient of a raffle award last year there. I have not redeemed my facial scrub as of yet.
Oh.
But we do thank you for that. I was thinking about that.
You brought that up.
It had to bring that up.